This is Heroine Addiction, presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, where one middle-aged dude gets another middle-aged dude addicted to romance comics for women. I'm Isekai Sensei Sama, aka Brad, and as always, I'm joined by Bento Baggins, aka Ben.
Hello.
But today, we've got something very special. Our first ever guests. We're joined today by Witlash and Moon, who are moderators from the r/Otome Isekai subreddit. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us what you got going on?
Hi, I'm Witlash from the Otome Isekai community. I do most of the general managing of the community on Reddit, Discord, and our marketing.
And hi, I'm Moon. I am also a moderator, and I also do general maintenance of the sub.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. I guess I should say a couple weeks ago, I was a guest on your guys' podcast over on the subreddit with Reddit Talks,
Right.
That's available on Spotify now as well, right?
Yes, it is called Tea Time at Castle Nim, and it's the Otome Isekai podcast. So
Yeah, so today we're talking about Master Villainess, the Invincible. This was one that I had on my plan to read list for a while, but we got a recommendation from Tobias in Germany. So thanks, Tobias. We appreciate your email. And this was a perfect one to read for having our first guests, because it was one that you guys had mentioned you had already read. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
I'm excited. This is a very good one.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. But before we dive into that, I'll just read the summary here, and then we'll get started. Yoju is a second-rate author living a mediocre existence in modern-day Korea. A tragic accident lands her in the plot of a best-selling martial arts novel, and she wakes up as the infamous villainess Heroine Tang. Hoping to save herself from a gruesome death, Yoju must figure out who to trust, harness Heroine's inner chi, and learn martial arts as she fights to save the Shachan Tang clan. Can she change the outcome of the novel and prove she's the worthy hero? So as I said, this was one that I had on my list. I had seen before, and it was well rated, and I was like, oh, this is an interesting one. So, I put that on my plan to read list, just off to the side there. And, I didn't think much of it. And then when we got that recommendation for it, I went and I looked at it again. I was like, okay, we'll do this one. After we recorded last time, and I went and I started to read this. If anybody remembers, with Concubine Walkthrough, which was one that we got recommended, I started reading it, and it didn't really grab me at first. And I only read 5 chapters to start, and then another 5, a day or two later, and so on, until around in the 20s, it really grabbed me. This one I started reading pretty shortly after we recorded the last episode, and I think I read 30 chapters in about a day. This one, it just there's something in there that just grabbed me, and I was like, this is amazing.
I think I can, like, a rare one for me. I think I beat you. I think I finished it first. I don't think that's ever happened before. I read.
not that it's a competition, but
If it were, I'd have won. And, no, but seriously, like, I don't ever. I don't want to say I don't ever. Like, it usually gets to a point for me, like 50 chapters in, I get into the intrigue and stuff, and I start going. This one was right off the bat. So much so that I almost felt like this one was like cheating. This cheating is like a. So when I started this, I was trying to get like the overview of the Otome Isekai genre, and this one is like, I don't know. It almost feels like it's definitely in that genre, but it's also in a couple
Oh
other
yeah.
genres.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I find that there, since the Ultimate Isekai genre started to come into prominence, we're mainly seeing like, the typical romance, kind of like a slow plot progression kind of
Mhm.
thing with not a lot of action going on. But this one, it's since it's mainly based on ancient Korea back in the past and martial arts, there's definitely more of a grab because there's more action, like people are kicking butt, and there's a lot of dynamic panels, so it really like sucks you in compared to like the more traditional, what you would think of as a standard,
Well,
like.
yeah, like I had a weird thought the whole time I was reading it, and it was that I genuinely liked this from an action standpoint more than I would say 90% of the stuff that's been in Shonen Jump for the last 5 years, 10 years. I mean, Shonen Jump's been canceling everything constantly for the last 5 years, but so that's not saying much. Like they know they suck, but this was this was actually really good from an action standpoint. Like I could see this in a magazine like that.
I would say the characterization of this series overall is that of an action,
Yeah.
because like while there's some romance in there, it's not a whole lot. They
Okay,
sort of
but
just slip it in here and there.
except that when it is there, it's extremely good.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's definitely, it's
Yeah.
great when they do it, and
Yeah.
I sort of want them to do it more, but
The romance is
it's not.
definitely secondary plot
Yeah.
compared to what's actually like the main plot is there, but then there's like this B side story of romance. Hey, it's right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's well rounded in a way that shonen stuff isn't usually. There's usually like like maybe two-dimensional characters. There's maybe a romance. You get your like Deku and Ochako, but it's
Yeah.
always in the background.
Yeah.
That romance will come to fruition all at once, right at the end, and it's an afterthought. But this is developed throughout, and it gives the characters a more like fully realized human feel.
and it actually, I felt that it feels realistic. Like they give you enough information for you to understand, and like why she's hesitant at first, and like where he's coming from with like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I feel like a lot of time in these, hyper dramatized romance manhwa, they have to like, you have to suspend your disbelief a lot with the actual romance plots, because it's like, why you guys are like staring deeply into each other's eyes, why are you acting like you can't be together, this is ridiculous. But in this one it's like, oh yeah, she's saying that this isn't a good idea because she's still not sure about her path in this new life, and he's like, oh, this probably isn't a good idea because of the past that I have. It all actually makes sense.
Oh
And
yeah.
then when they finally, and they don't drag it out too long, that when they finally get to the point where they're like, we should just be together, it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's extremely rewarding.
Yeah, it's actually not very common for otome isekai where the male lead and the female lead actually develop their feelings in parallel to each other. Like they develop their feelings at the same time. That's
Yeah.
usually never the case. Usually like one catches their feelings like way ahead of the other one, or one doesn't even have fucking feelings until like act three of the novel. Like
Or like some huge dramatic like thing that happens.
yeah, like someone saves someone's life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's on the brink of death or whatever. Like that's it. That's the turning point. Someone gets kidnapped or whatever. But
Yeah.
like this is one of the very rare ones, and I realized this after the reread, like that they actually develop their feelings parallel with each other, and that never fucking happened. That's
It's
great.
so refreshing. It's so refreshing from like all from all the
Yeah.
ones that we've read. Oh,
The interesting thing to me was that, you have this romance going on. But like, as I said before, it's not really central. It's sort of just bonus content. And the rest of the time, and this is sort of after you get into it a while, but like, it's incredibly violent.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you are so right. I didn't even think
The
about
the
that.
first time I really sort of sat back and went, "Oh my God, this is really violent." Because there's parts near the beginning where some violent stuff happens, but it's like, oh, there's just these bad guys, you know, oh, they get hit by a kunai or whatever. But there's one point where some assassins are coming to the Tang clan residence, and Honyo comes in and kicks this girl's head clean off of her body.
I noticed that.
Right.
I was like,
I noticed that.
are you
I
kidding
mean-
me? That is, and you see it. The blood splatter. It's like, this is hyper violent.
I think the mood was set for me when like Haewon like gave her mom like the poison, and I was like,
Well, that was definitely like, oh, this is a villainous
yeah,
thing.
it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna play. Oh, you know what? No, another point that I was like, okay, we're gonna go hard, is when I saw like Hui's backstory and like that like 1,000 leg centipede or whatever that was fed to him. I was like, okay, that's how we're gonna play. We're gonna play rough. Okay, I see.
For me, it was even earlier with Soye catching the Kamehameha to the face.
Oh no, that was
I didn't think.
Soye is the
Sina.
one who replaces her. I have a note.
Oh,
I
you're
have
right,
a
you're
note
right,
about
you're right.
this.
I'm sorry.
So Sina like was obviously not great, and like she was doing some bad stuff for a long time. But my note specifically says Sina was done dirty. She was terrible, but dead and replaced in the span of a few panels, because Soye shows up right after that. They're just like,
I mean, yeah, in most of the
Here's
time,
another
one.
the girl gets
But-
the maid just gets the slap,
Yeah.
but Cena got way more than a fucking slap.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've only read the ones we've done on this show, but I am so used to the villainess comes in. The person in her body realizes, I need to humble myself real quick because I'm already in too deep, and they get the evil maid on their side, and that evil maid becomes like a lifelong ally and helps them win. And I thought, I was like, okay, we're doing that again, and I like that trope. I was like, yeah, I'm all ready for it. And then she gets her head blown off,
Yeah,
and I was like,
Honestly, I was surprised because they showed it like, oh, she's accidentally being hit, because Haewon wasn't aiming at her. She was trying to get the guy who was trying to escape, and she just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I was like, oh, it'll be like, you know, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry I hit, and it's like, no, she did. She did. I tell you, she
no,
did.
it's
hide the body, send a messenger to make it look like she's still around.
Like when I saw that happening, I was definitely like, okay, it's gonna like swerve, or
No.
somebody's gonna jump in and dodge it like super quick. No, like the net literally it kind of ends at a cliffhanger where it's like, oh, you don't know what happens next, and then the next chapter is, she's just Haewon is just like, you know, doing her business, and then the guy, her servant, Bang Shik, is like, yeah, we buried her body. She's gone.
Yeah, and that's how you like. I thought she was okay. Like she's in a tent somewhere being healed.
Yeah,
And then he's like, yeah, no, we faked the death. We made it look like she's sending a message over here. I was like, oh wow.
no.
she's full on dead. Nobody like jumped in to save her.
Yeah.
And then they
Because in that like shonen stereotype, you always think, oh, the person is gonna get saved, and it's like, nope, not this time.
So I do think they did a good job of sort of setting up the stakes pretty early on, but that first one, it was sort of off screen. Like you see the chi ball firing, and like you see her surprise face, like, oh my gosh, and then like the next panel is like, oh, she's dead, and he's just like, okay,
Well, I mean,
that's what we're doing
yeah.
then. All right,
It's
This
not
is-
like
this is
a
gonna
lot
be one
of
like
the
that.
a lot of the really savage hits are like kind of done with like silhouettes, you know. But like, yeah, no, there's a lot of death. The body count is very high.
when Gonyo punches that girl's head off, the assassin. That was the first one that I was, and that's in, I think that's in season 2, like middle of season
Yeah.
2. That was the first one where I was really like, oh, this is real violent. Because before that, like you said, there was like silhouettes, there's just kunai sticking out of people. There's a lot of blood, but it's not like spraying blood all the time. And so it was like, okay, violent, but not like hyper violent. When he did that, I was like, oh, we're getting into hyper violent territory. And then like right near the end of season 2, oh my God, I forget her name. The original female lead girl who likes the sword. When she's like,
Yeah.
Oh
gonna,
yeah, she has her like
yeah,
bloodlust
and she just
moment.
like,
Yeah.
she cuts that dude's head clean off. And that one was like, wow, okay.
It's intense, the character change from like when she's how she normally is to when she's wielding a sword, and I'm just like, oh my, like
Oh,
it was
I'm
such
here
a
for it.
drastic. I was just like, this is, yeah, it's a great like character moment. It's very defining, but I was just like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like what? Like I feel like she's just gonna like flip or change. Like I'm like already
They
foreshadowing something that's going to happen later down the line with her, and
they
it's not
did
pretty.
they did a couple interesting things with the violence that I think are worth pointing out. Like when the maid is accidentally killed, Heiwan has to deal with the guilt because
Right.
she just got like. I was tempted when I was reading it, like, because I'm reading it with an eye towards doing this podcast, so I'm trying to find things to like praise and criticize. And one of the things is she gets these power ups consistently from like medicines or pills, and she has to meditate and do the cultivation thing to absorb the thing without dying. But there's no training arc, so
Mm-hmm.
it kind of seems like she just gets a power up. Like she was bit by a radioactive spider. She's got superpowers now, and real quick they then do the I was bit by a radioactive spider. I have superpowers, but then Uncle Ben died, and that was the maid. And so there's like this whole responsibility thing she has to absorb of how I'm going to use these powers for good, and it's not just a game. And she got sucked into this fantasy novel. And there's another thing it frustrates you, and I think it's supposed to frustrate you, is sometimes they don't treat the NPCs like they're actual human beings
Mm-hmm.
when they get sucked in. But she gets over that real quick, and she has to
Yeah.
start treating people like people.
For this one, I find that going off a tangent on what you said, Ben, was yeah, she got these super cool powers, and the reason the maid died is kind of her fault too. I mean, I know she didn't
Mm-hmm.
intentionally like aim the blast at her. She thought she was just getting an assassin, right? Because it was dusty and she couldn't see clearly, so she was just aiming at it like a silhouette. So I feel like when her maid died, her original maid died, um, and it was kind of by her hand. It really just kind of grounded her and made her think, oh shit, I have these cool powers. I do not know how to fully utilize them yet. I can't just go shooting off energy beams willy nilly, you know, because these are people's lives on the line. I can't think that this is just a game anymore.
Yeah, and I've seen like there's not a ton of people who review this negatively, but a few negative reviews I saw, they point out how she gets all this power for free, and she has a little bit of plot armor. And I thought that was kind of offset by that. Like she does have these powers, but there's still conflict because she can't just do whatever she wants. And she
Exactly.
does make mistakes, and it does cost her.
It's even more like, I guess, like pronounced because she has a terrible reputation already, right? So instead of starting from zero, she's
Hmm.
Hmm.
starting from a sub-level reputation point. So
Hmm.
that's also kind of like it really becomes a problem for her. Like even I mean, even now, even still after season 2, like there's still like setbacks for her because everyone thinks of her as the fucking villainess, and so like it's hard.
And I also like how they connected that to her actual personality. because they haven't done a lot with it, and I kind of hope they do more in future seasons. But the person she was also had a lot of regrets and didn't go for it as much as she could have. Like, it starts off with her regretting her writing isn't as successful as she wants it to be. She writes romances and martial arts is the popular thing, which is terrible publishing advice. It's the exact opposite. But so she's not just like stuck in this body with these problems that are somebody else's problems that she has to deal with. She's kind of owning them. And like the responsibility she takes on makes you want to root for her, even though she's got all this. She kind of gets the power for free, but like the responsibility that comes with it, she chooses, and I like that.
There was something about all of the character developments, especially hers, that I really appreciated. In a lot of these series, you have this thing where the main character is like, oh, I have this regret, or, you know, I'm not sure what I should do in this new life and all this kind of stuff. And it drags on, and they keep bringing it back up. And it's like, at some point, you just get sick of it. And it's like, you're really still struggling with this. And so I appreciate it in this series where they would introduce these things and they'd maybe deal with it for a chapter or two. And then they'd move on. And it's not that they never bring it back up. It's never that there isn't any new kind of growth that needs to happen, but they don't like drag it out. None of it didn't feel rushed, but it also didn't feel like they were dragging it out. And I really appreciate that, reading so many different ones of these that they drag stuff out for so long.
Oh dear Lord, do they ever?
Well, you guys can maybe tell me more if this is like the common thing. One of the things I've noticed in a lot of these Otome Isekai stories is it's more about the soft power and the intellectual manipulation of a villainess who is oppressed. Like in a lot of these, the villainess has to get access to money because money is freedom and power, but she has to go through a front because women can't own businesses, or she can't own a business for some reason. In this one, they do away with that pretty quickly. This character has like all the agency, all the power. She gets military postings. She gets training on equal footing with like the male heirs. And that's kind of rewarding too. I don't know if that happens in other Otome Isekai or if this stands out.
It does not.
I mean,
It does
I
not.
mean, it also, well, like she has a pretty decent relationship with her father and her brother, though. That has a lot to do with why she has that agency.
Yes.
While as most Otome Isekai villainesses don't have even the family support. Most of the time, their family is an antagonist or a secondary
Yeah.
antagonist, um, but for this one, I mean, she has a pretty good relationship with her dad and her brother. It's kind of like slightly ox at time, but most of the time it's good, especially like with her brother. So, I mean, yeah, so that's why she has a lot of the quote unquote benefits of being an heiress, is because there was not a lot.
The world isn't fighting against her.
There wasn't too much of a hurdle there. Aside from at the beginning, you know, she had that reputation. Everyone knew that she was like a shitty person at the beginning.
And also, something we didn't mention before is her stepmother
Yeah.
was poisoning her.
Yeah.
Even since before she got transferred into Heiwan. Heiwan's body was being poisoned constantly ever since her stepmother came into her life. And Heiwan trusted her stepmother and loved her. And she took her advice and everything. And and I guess that's, well, the reason she took the medicine pill anyway was to combat the poison, to be able to fight against her destiny of, hey, you're gonna be a hole in the ground someday.
Yeah, that was. How did you guys take that? Was that her getting her own power back plus a little more?
That's
or was it the power
that was the ginseng
The
root that she
1,000-year
found, right?
ginseng.
Yeah. The 1,000 year
Yeah.
No,
ginseng.
not even. I was talking about even before that. Before she goes and leaves to go do training. She's still in her family's estate because since the Tang clan is a master of poisons, and so they have a good apothecary. They have medicine, like they have knowledge in medicine. So
Hmm.
she like goes and rummages around in like the apothecary drawers, and she finds a pill that kind of
Her energy,
awakens
yeah.
her inner
Oh
chi,
yeah. So
and then it starts.
the poison had
Suppressing,
Yeah, and
been
then
yeah.
blocking for so long that even though she like countered the poison at that time, it wasn't until then she took the ginseng later that she
thing.
found in the woods, like you do, you just eat stuff off the ground.
Yeah.
Um, when she did that, that actually like forcefully opened all of her chi pathways. So,
Well, what she was doing with the poison was already blocking her chi pathway. So pretty much she kind of opened it up. So she was able to use chi, but she couldn't really master it.
mhm.
So I find like the Thousand Year Ginseng kind of just gave it that extra boost of being like, oh hey, I can like run super fast. Like you can see after she ate the ginseng, after she like was able to incorporate it with the flow of her body, that afterward she was able to move super fast. She was able to jump super high. So I feel like the ginseng just unlocked more of that crazy like wuxia ability, while as before it was she was just able to unlock it. She's like, oh hey, I'm able to use martial arts. Like I can learn it and go and do training, you know.
Mm.
So and that I think that's kind of the reason why she left. She was able to unlock it, and the reason she gave to her father and family was like, hey, I'm going to atone for my crimes and everything, and I'm just going to go and leave for like a month and just collect and do some self-reflection, which is it's kind of rare to see that somebody actually doing that.
Yeah, but
um
then it becomes a training arc. But then the
so
whole thing becomes a training
yeah,
arc.
I think it was just like, and then
It became,
yeah, but then the thing, the ginseng triggers the training arc.
I liked that the training arc was also the romance arc because the training arc would have been boring. I think just by
I mean, it's
itself.
like
I
the
mean,
start of the romance.
yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine you like go to meditate or whatever, like in the mountains or some like far region, and then suddenly there's a hottie. What the hell? You didn't even know that there was going to be this additional benefit here.
Well, she goes over to her parental grandfather's place, who's
So
like a
they're,
different
yeah,
clan,
they're
the Yan
vassals. They're
clan,
vassals of the
and
Tang
he
clan. Hmm.
introduces. So she gets introduced to.
Kunwu.
Oh my gosh, how to pronounce his name
Gunwoo.
again?
No.
I'm just gonna say
Kunwu.
Gun
It's
Honwo.
not
Oh
Hanu.
Hanu.
There we go,
no.
Hanu.
Hanu.
Hanu. Yeah, so we get introduced to Hanu, and it's definitely a surprise because he's kind of set up as kind of like an antagonist because he's tall, kind of imposing. You'd be intimidated by him if you suddenly found him
Yeah,
next to
tall
you.
is an understatement. There's a couple panels in
He's
the second season where they're standing right next to each other. My dude is like 2.5 heads taller
I mean,
at
he doesn't
least.
fit into door
he's
frames.
yeah.
Why were you
This
Yeah,
man
surprised?
and
is
Like, there
she's
were a
not
yeah.
couple of,
short.
like, when he was being introduced, that he would, like, hit the door frame or, like, hit something. And I'm like, I mean, I know that that was
Yeah, he would
trying
hit
to
his head
prove
against the
that he was a
doors,
himbo, but I
and
mean,
they'd break off.
they really went above and beyond.
I don't even think he's a himbo.
I was going to ask about this because he's got that like teddy bear personality.
He is not a himbo
Except that
because he's not stupid.
they paint him
He's not
Well, and
stupid.
he
at that
comes
in
off
the
as
intro,
stupid at
though.
first.
Well, he's trying to stay hidden. That's a persona that he's putting on.
He's also super clumsy.
He's also
Yeah,
not
he's
very good
super
at talking.
To
clumsy at the
her,
beginning. I
He
mean, it
gets
gets much
yeah,
better, but like they're
yeah.
definitely trying to portray a stereotype at the beginning. So
So I gotta tell you, I learned something about myself with this one, where like I, I like him for her. I think their relationship is nice,
he's a
but I
little
think I
too
like him better.
safe. No, he's a little too
I
safe, Ben. I'm with you.
yeah, I didn't.
What? Okay.
Yeah, he's too like I said, it's a healthy relationship. It's really great to watch. It feels natural. He's fine young man. Except for the
No,
nipples, he's got to
don't,
put those away.
don't
Could
put
cut
them
glass
away.
with those things.
So okay,
Oh my
I'm gonna take a
God.
brief detour into the nipples. So
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my wife about this because she reads all the Fujoshi stuff, and I was asking because normally in anime and manga they don't draw the nipples, or if they do, it's just circles. But there are a couple of shots of Gungwoo, or sorry, Hannu. I'm gonna struggle with that. But there's a couple of shots of him where he's supposed to be like super sexy. Like one in the bathhouse stands out to me, and they draw them, and I had this reaction when I saw them. I was like, it's like I'm straight, but nobody's that straight. Like you gotta put those away, son. Like people are like you're
It's
in
a fucking
public.
bathhouse,
I mean,
Ben. Oh
and
my God.
he's in a bathhouse, but like still. So I was asking my wife. I was like, male nipples, attractive, not attractive? She's like, not attractive. And I was like, well, but they do this thing in this comic, and it like makes him look more
More
naked.
naked.
And she, yeah, she was like, that's exactly it. It makes him more realistic. It makes it, I don't know, sexier somehow. Like it's a funny point because nipples is a funny word, but I'm also kind of like
And
he's
then
got this big old chest,
and then his
and his
waist
tiny
is
waist.
so snatched.
Yeah,
Those fantastic
Really funny.
pecs. Yeah.
yeah, exact. That's the perfect word.
Yes. He's
Oh my god.
he's an upside down
It's a
Dorito.
joke.
Kind of
Yeah,
like
Yeah, it's a joke.
triangular
It's
on
an
top,
and
but
he's
unknown
got
like
joke.
those
thin
long
at the
legs.
waist.
Yeah, and so he sees her, and she's not supposed to be in there, and he immediately covers his chest. And I was like, exactly, you should cover your shame, Hungnu. This is
Bro, leave the nipples alone, okay? Let us have our fucking
oh,
nipples.
that was
They're so rare as it is in Atomi Isekai. Leave them be. It's really funny because they never have them in Atomi Isekai. So every time someone
That
posts
is true.
a nipple, like because that's how rare they are. They're like a fucking unicorn. So I'm not even saying that I like them or not. I'm just saying because of the rarity.
I was
Like the collector in me is like, I want to see them because there's so few
no
of them. It's not that I prefer them or not. It's just they're
I
worth more. They're more valuable because of the rarity.
Mm-hmm.
I was just there was something about it. I was looking at that image and I was like, I don't know why, but this is like it. I'm like ashamed to be looking at this.
Come
It's
on.
like yes. It's like oh my gosh.
You're flustered. You were flustered.
But like we don't usually talk about the art until the end. I know, but they do a lot of things like that. There's a lot of little touches where it made him look way sexier, and it made that situation as awkward as it was supposed to be for the comedic moment they were going to have. There were also a lot of little scenes where I haven't seen this, and maybe you guys have, but I'm still getting used to the like cell phone comic scrolling format, and I didn't like it for a long time, and I think that was just like an old man not wanting to change, because there's a lot of things in traditional comics where like you have a flow and a page turn and you're supposed to hit those beats. But with this, they had a scene on a bridge, I remember, where the two of them are like looking into each other's eyes, and one of them says like I like you or something, and then you scroll down and you just keep scrolling, and it goes from the bridge to the water to the reflection in the water, and in the reflection he says like I do as well. And it was so cool to like scroll that, and it moved like a movie camera panning down. And I could be like reading way too much into that. Maybe that
it
happens all the
it
time
does,
in these
yeah.
comics, but I thought
It
that was so
definitely
I
neat.
think
is
they
a
were going for that.
manhwa. It's a Korean manhwa art art choice, right? So
Yeah.
they make a lot of them to scroll like that. So they kind of have like, oh, okay, here's a technique to make it look more beautiful or appealing or to kind of create a sense of flow better. So that's definitely like a manhwa.
Yeah, that it's there's like the artist definitely put thought into panel composition to make sure that
And
it
they did that
flows
with some of
naturally.
the fight scenes too, like some of the chi bolts. They would like almost animate it
Yeah.
with the scroll.
I
I don't know.
as far as the art goes, they definitely did a lot of that. The composition was really good. The those layouts, the flow of it. I thought that the actual character model stuff was fairly straightforward. Nothing like, you know, real, like it wasn't like, oh, this is amazing, but like it was very well put together. Like the I think I've used this to describe some of the past ones, but like, you know, the competency of the art. This is the most competent art. Like
Hmm.
there wasn't any point where I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
looks weird, except for the fact that he's, you know, 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
But besides that, like all of it was done very precisely, even if it wasn't like overly artistic. Although I will say a lot of the surroundings, so the set pieces and the energy and like the backgrounds and all that, that was very well executed, like really well done. I think it was only like the character designs that I was like, okay, these are fine.
There's only a few of these like wuxia based otome isekai, and I really enjoy that about the art backgrounds. Like a lot of them have so many natural elements to them. Like the design is very much
Mm.
like Eastern Eastern art based with like the cool geometric designs, lots of flower usage, like the silks and like textures. Like I really like that about series like these, and there's only a few of them. I mean, you guys already covered concubine walkthrough. So, but like there's a few more of these like precious martial arts daughter, and there's another one that's new that's like the precious granddaughter of a martial arts villain. So there's a few of these like Eastern Chinese setting ones, and that's kind of like a commonality in the design of them that I always enjoy the nice natural landscape around for the art because it looks really nice. It's just very refreshing. Like it's pleasing to the eye. Um, and then it was really funny because when I launched, so I had launched this one, the series. So the original Korean title was I'm a martial arts villainess, but I'm the strongest. Before it got licensed by, I believe Tapas has the title as martial arts, oh, sorry, Master Villainess, the Invincible, right? So, but the original novel title is I'm a martial
Hmm.
arts villainess, but I'm the
Mm.
strongest. Um, so I had launched it on the sub like 2 years ago, and it's really funny because the, the top comment says a wuxia otome isekai manhwa. Who knew that this is how we would achieve East Asian unity? Because the otome isekai concept was started in Japan, and this is a Chinese wuxia story, and then it's made in a Korean manhwa format.
Mm.
It's like, who knew that this is how we're going to achieve unification? And I was like, oh my god, this comment is just gold.
Going back to a bit of the story stuff, I'd be remiss to not bring up something that I didn't quite like about this series, because everything else we've been saying, we're gushing about how good it is. But there's one specific thing that this series does, and I actually have a note about this because it happened enough that I was like, huh, okay. This trope that they do where they hint at having a conversation previously to like build up the suspense, and then like a little bit later they'll flash back and be like, and here's what happened. And they did it like 4 or 5 times. And I was just like, we're going to do this every single time.
I mean, I don't know if
Yeah,
that's better than like
I
showing the
didn't notice
conversation
this.
twice, though.
Mm.
Well, it's not that you wouldn't. So the lead up to it is always like, and here's how we're going to infiltrate that mansion. Cut to infiltrating the mansion. And then they're like, remember what we talked about. Cut back to the conversation. It's like, why didn't you just stay there and have the conversation? You didn't have to jump forward like that.
I honestly,
I don't know. That's not. Did you ever see Ocean's 11?
Yeah, and it's like it is a
movie.
trope. It's a trope that other media
Yeah.
does, and like doing it every once in a while is not a big deal for me. And maybe this is just because I was reading through it so quickly, and you wouldn't get this feeling if you were reading it when it was coming out. But it just felt like they did it so often. It was like, yeah, this is pushing it a bit.
I'll be
Yeah, that
honest. When
didn't
I was
stand
reading,
out.
I didn't even notice that. Maybe because I'm just so used to reading, just reading just a bunch of things, that maybe that happens enough in other series that I've read that I'm just like, okay, moving on, and my suspension of disbelief is not broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that ties into something that I think they did well, which is the cliffhangers at the end of the chapters.
Oh my God.
I think the cliffhangers are one of the reasons why I can really get into a series. And so if the end of the chapter doesn't have something that I'm like, what's going to happen next? Then it's not really grabbing me to make me want to binge it. And they did that very well in this series. Like most of the chapters have a good ending of the chapter where it makes you go, what's going to happen?
So one thing that bothered me, I don't know if this is like a trope of like the wuxia genre or whatever, but she just keeps eating things that make her more powerful.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I not to my recollection.
That might not be a wuxia thing. It might just be a power creep thing, because I see it happen a lot in like
Oh my God.
power
Is she going
creep.
to eat that sword?
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
she'll eat like
Chill out. Chill out.
if it gets broken. I feel like if it gets broken, and like she'll like consume a shard,
Yeah.
or like have this essence
Yeah,
be
or
like
does
transmuted
it
into
have
like
a gem?
food item.
Yeah.
it did get a little like, okay, she eats the 1,000-year ginseng, gets a power boost. She eats the poison of all poisons, gets a power boost. She then gets the monk sword, gets a power.
Yeah, she feeds the pill from the mountain to like the other soldiers too. There's a lot of like
Yeah.
consuming
Oh, that was
things to make
the snake.
Yeah,
She killed
Yeah.
the snake
the-
and then
the
used
evil
its,
snake god.
Yeah. Right,
It's,
and so
yeah.
she fed something to her troops to power them up. It's
Yes.
it's just like a
Yes.
constant thing.
Well, that's a thing in mythology. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
Chinese mythology, but like Sigurd eats a dragon heart in the Volsungs. But like, she gets a lot of power ups, and those like, they weren't my favorite parts. Like when she's the ultimate chosen one. She's chosen
Yeah.
by the ginseng. She's chosen by the poison. She's chosen by the monk.
But we do see in the flashback with the stepmother, she was the chosen one before, like the original Heroine was the chosen one.
Yeah,
And that's
she was
why her stepmother started poisoning her. So
Right,
it's not
right.
like, oh, it's an isekai power up thing. It's like, no, this should have,
Was always
this is
meant to
what was
be.
supposed to happen if, things had worked out the way they should have.
Well, like I said, I think it's offset by her being a good leader because she has challenges in other areas.
Oh, right. And I wanted to bring that because there's so much action in this, but I think some of the coolest parts are when she's not actually fighting. The main note I have about this is when she takes down that merchant when they're on their way back for the first time, because she doesn't fight
Are you
anybody
talking
there.
about the like the bigger guy who's like in charge of the white snakes? Or are you talking about
Yes.
You mean the
Yeah,
eight
that's-
star,
Right.
the eight
yeah.
star merchant guild?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Because she goes in there and she takes him. First of all, she goes in and negotiates a deal, which didn't even really matter in the first place, but that shows off her intelligence and her ability. And then she goes back and just exercises her I guess political power, because she bribes all of his guards to be on her side by like saving their families and stuff. And this is my notes are peppered with just badass, badass. That was the first instance where I wrote it down, and that she wasn't even fighting. So I think they did a really good job with that to sort of set it up. If like it doesn't just take brute force.
No, it doesn't. But it's cool though that there's a lot of fighting, but there's also some mystery too, like because they're solving this mystery of like, okay, the demonic sect, like that's the big bad, right? So they're like solving like these little clues, like, okay, who's trying to get certain things for the demonic sect, aka, and then there's like this big bad demon that's fixing to get resurrected or whatever, Voldemort style. So like it's just that's always the case, right? Like there's this big baddie that's trying to come over to our world.
Is the blonde guy, is that he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hui.
Her
cousin.
He is the girl. Yeah.
The blonde.
Hui Morong.
Like, he was.
He's the second male lead.
Yeah. I didn't care about him much at the beginning, but by the end of the second arc, he's like genuinely kind of creepy, and like he's abused, and you kind of don't hate him. At least I didn't. I mean, I started off hating him, but then I felt bad for him, but he's also weird, and I don't know what he's scheming.
Yeah. It's like, for me, I don't hate him either. I don't hate him either. I hate the circumstances that he's in right now, because honestly, I think he could be if he wasn't in the situation he was in, he would be like a normal, I think he would be like a normal, decent guy. Maybe even, well, besides the creepiness.
He's so creepy.
The creepiness,
Oh my
I
gosh.
contribute it to the
I'm
situation.
just following my heart.
I really okay. Well, you guys, yeah, I'll be the weirdo, and it's like I like this guy. I really like the second male lead because I like the weirdos, and he's a weirdo.
I mean, at this point, I'm too attached to the main relationship. I don't want him to be like a romance. I mean, he could be a romantic rival, but he can't win.
No. There's no
chance.
Nobody
He's
can
the
win
second
against.
male lead for a reason.
You're just saying syllables now.
Listen, you read it. It says "gun woo." Okay, that's what it says. That's what the text says.
Honu. It's Honu.
Honu.
That's what I said.
That's not what you said. But no, I could see him as a reformed villain though. I like the blonde guy as a reformed villain.
I do feel sorry for him, but as a a second male lead thing, I'm just like, nah.
He could get with the sword girl or something. Like I'm fine with that. But
no. He's not going to end up with anyone. This guy's not going to end up with anyone. But like, I feel bad because I feel like if he was in another Otomi Isekai, he could definitely be the creepy Yandere male lead. Like
Yeah.
that could be him.
Hmm.
If he was in a different story, put him in a different. And you know what? I'm gonna say this because you guys already covered it, but like he looks a lot like Sunshine, doesn't he?
I
I
was
mean,
gonna
he's got the
mention that.
curly blonde hair with the top
That's
man
not a
bun.
positive thing.
Well, I was gonna say, is there something with
Well, I like
blonde
Sunshine
hair?
too because I'm weird. Yeah,
Is there
yeah.
something with blonde
So
hair?
So he's
Is
got curly blonde hair with a top man bun, which is like literally a style choice, right? So no, I really like Hui because not for our female lead. I don't want him for anyone, but I'm just saying that I
Just
like
for
him as a
yourself.
character because I feel maybe for myself, maybe I would not feed him the thousand leg centipede. Fuck that. That's so terrible. But no, I just feel really bad for him. He seems like he's very pretty. He seems like he could be a very devoted dog. And that's some people are into that, like
It's all
myself.
right. The demonic god loves him,
So
so
Yeah, the demonic god is creepily
the
in love
demonic,
with him.
yeah.
he's the male lead for the demonic god.
Yeah.
So
on the
like
whole.
it's even creepier because like that's his sister's body, like that the demonic god is in. So
Yeah.
that's like an additional level of creepiness that no one needed. But
Well, and the demonic god's like
but
flirting with him, but at the same time wants to take his body. Like that's how I was reading that.
I
Like
I was
that's
not
that's
clear
that's
on
the
the
next
body
level of
taking.
yeah. No,
we will
well
literally become
because the
one.
sister this yeah, that's another level, right? But no, the sister because the sister's body is already weak, so the demonic god needs a stronger body. And I mean, I guess Hui is like slightly stronger. But then I guess they're going for someone even stronger than him. I mean,
They
that's what
they
they
do show
want.
that he is one
That's what they
of the
want Kiha for.
strongest martial artists. It just so happens that he's going
Yeah,
up against the absolute strongest.
Okay, here's my
right.
prediction for the demonic god. I say he's going to possess Hanu, our male lead, and shit's gonna go down. That's what I'm thinking.
Ooh,
Oh,
I will be really upset.
that'd be good though.
You
That'd
don't
be
you
like
don't
high
think
drama.
you don't think they're prepping to like make the demonic god possess Kiha because I'm pretty sure that's what they've been. Because
Maybe.
like they're all like
That's true
Kiha is a
too.
morally gray character. Like you're not
Mhm.
gonna feel that bad if the demonic god takes over this motherfucker. Like they're
Yeah.
not gonna feel bad about that. Um,
That's true.
whereas yeah, I mean I think and besides he is didn't they say that the reason why they were after him specifically was because he was like the nexus of certain like his heritage,
I
like
think
the
he's
like
supposed to be
eight
a
clan.
piece. There's like some kind of like other like good god kind of thing that he has a piece of in him or something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
I read that aren't they looking for her though? And they don't know that? Like she's the
But
one from another world that's supposed to be able to undo
yeah,
this.
yeah, like
Maybe. Yeah.
she's
Right,
the
right, right,
chosen
right,
one,
right.
and everybody in like the martial arts community that they have thinks that it's Jiha, the original male lead.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be fun, but I don't know how long we're gonna have to wait for the next season.
That was that's the thing. Like this one, I blew through it so fast, and I guess I thought this was further along than it was because I'm getting to like
You don't think
chapter
86 chapters? It's
I'm getting
86
to like
chapters,
chapter
bro.
75, and I'm like, they're not wrapping up any of the plot lines I care about. This is
No.
how and then I
No.
was like, oh no, it's on hiatus. Oh no, I'm becoming one of you guys. Like I'm gonna have
Yes.
to.
Join us, Ben.
I do want to actually touch on this because the pacing is done really well, but there was a specific thing where they introduced the demonic god thing at the very end of season 1. So you're going through the whole first season just like, oh, like where, I wonder where we're going with this. And it's like, oh, here's actually the final villain. We're going to introduce them in the last chapter of season 1. And
Well,
then at the end of season 2, it's like, I got to there and I was like, oh, this is going to go on for a long time, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because you still
Yeah.
they haven't done anything with the two interns, Mountain Boy and Magic Girl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know,
I
Mountain
think I
Boy.
think those two are gonna they're gonna
Yeah.
end up together. Jargong and Soye, I think they're gonna end up together because they're always together. Like they're literally always together. They're eating cotton candy together. They're fucking like going to the festival together. Like they're
Oh
always
yeah, they made their
together.
festival masks together, and they're cute. I like
They're
it.
cute.
I ship
They're very
it.
cute.
Yeah.
And didn't they say that Soye is the original female lead or something like that?
Well,
She
No,
she was
she
one of the
is the
heroes.
original female lead.
yeah,
Yeah.
she was one of the heroes for Jiha, who is like in the original OG plot line. She's like the master of the Divine Tower, who is a follower for Jiha and is one of his many, many wives.
I was like, oh, how very convenient. You found this person who's super important 10 years before she's important.
I mean,
no,
hey,
she knew what she was doing. I'm just kidding. Well, she made a choice, right? So she had like a debating thing, like, okay, am I gonna take this girl under my wing, you know? So
I mean, is the choice hard when it's Jiha, who's kind of an asshole? After
Oh my
like,
God. He is so ridiculous. Like, I get the whole like, oh, you poisoned this girl you were jealous of, like that's really bad, and you did all this villainous stuff, but like as soon as she starts being powerful and doing good things, like
He's
wake
jealous.
up.
He wants to be wanted. She rejected him. That's not how he does
Right.
So
yes.
stupid.
it. No,
And
he's
That's
even
like
at the end of-
whenever she,
Fucking what the guy from the one Witash or whatever from God, what's the series?
I don't love you anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
I don't
love
love
you
you
anymore.
go away.
Yeah.
Holy shit. What is wrong with you? You ignored her for 10 years. Go die in a fire.
right?
Oh my God, that is wow. You
Oh.
have strong feelings. It's because like it's especially obvious when at the like towards the end of season 2 when when Kiha sees Honu and Haewon together, and he's like, "Wait, she had other options aside from me." Like, I cannot fucking believe the
What a
nerve.
piece
Like,
of shit.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, "Excuse me, you were supposed to just wither off and die after I rejected you. You were supposed to stay single and celibate." Like,
And not only
like that's,
did she
I feel
reject
like,
him, but then she went over to the best guy.
Yes, the best guy.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I like how at the end of season 2 he kind of like does some self reflection after he gets his ass beat severely.
It
Severely get
wasn't
his
enough
ass beat.
though. Like
Okay, yeah.
I enjoyed his
Right.
like, oh my God, I'm a piece of shit. What the heck? But like it wasn't enough. Somebody needs to beat the crap out of him some more.
I do.
I
he's-
really like it when his dad tells him off. He's like, that
Yeah.
arrogance of yours is gonna come back and bite you in the ass. Like I
And
really
it
love
did.
that his
Quite
dad
literally.
was good. Yeah, no, I'm happy that he heard that from someone else because he needed to be hearing it from someone else.
Yeah.
I think there's hope for him. If now that he realizes why he was like he was in such denial about why he was even angry. He's like, no, she's obviously scheming, and I think like I get the impression he honestly believed that that she was doing something or it was some scheme. Nobody could possibly have rejected me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what there's no hope for though? You know what there's no hope for? His eyebrows.
I can understand the hesitancy and like the I'm gonna keep an eye on things, but like the outright just being a dick when everybody around you is like, hey, maybe dial it back a little bit. Like, wake up. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's spewing vitriol the entire time of season 2 when they're going to like the Shaolin monk temple.
Yeah. I actually
close
feel
to
like it
the
got
end.
worse. Like they sort of hinted at like, oh, maybe he's going to come around a bit earlier on. And then they get to this
No.
part and he's like, I'm in charge. You're going to listen to me and you're terrible. You're actually scheming, right? Stupid.
And
No,
like
he
every
doubles
like
down. He doubles down. Yeah.
he does double down, and his entire traveling party is super like awkward about
Yeah.
the situation, and they're like, bro, you need to chill out, like calm down, just just stop saying things.
Even the guy whose sister got poisoned is like, I don't know why
Bro,
you're so
chill
angry
out.
about this.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Meanwhile,
like I get it.
you got the sister in the back pulling a Mulan, trying to blend in and walk up
Oh
the
my
mountain.
God, she's
I
so
mean,
silly.
I mean,
And then
yeah. The
the just twisting on its like that immediate change as soon as she unsheathed her sword. It's just that was great.
It's like she's been possessed
yeah.
by the sword, and the sword is evil. And that's what I just thought immediately when I first read it. I was just thinking, is the sword evil? Because it, the way she's acting is
No,
not.
that's what happens when you've been oppressed your whole life.
And you
No,
feel like this.
she's got the burden. She's got the burden of being the original female lead, so she has that same rage. She has the same rage as like, from the Beware the Villainess main lead, Yuri. Like it's the same rage. Like you've been in this role. Like they might not know it that
Yeah.
they've been suffering under this, but it's been there their whole lives. And she's actually, I think he is in love with Haewon too, just like Yuri is in love with Melissa, because she even though they didn't have like and you see the flashbacks to when they were like talking on their like gondola or whatever like their little boat like when they were
Mm.
younger, and she's talking about like don't you feel like like you were kind of stifled like we're having to do as we're told and things like that, and then Hay원's like just do what you fucking want like
Yeah.
like just don't give a fuck, and she's been in love with her for like a long time. And like when she gave her the sword, I guess this is still season one, like when she gave her the
Yeah,
sword and she's like, oh my God,
She remembered.
she
Yeah.
remembered our conversation. And she's just like, this is a girl that actually understands me. Like she might be the only person on earth that understands me. So she's like in love with her, in my opinion.
I
So
got those vibes. I get those vibes a lot in these though. I don't know if they're purposely doing it or if
it's it's definitely contested, at least in the comments and on our sub, that there's Yuri baiting going on, and it
oh,
infuriates
there's
people.
always Euro dating.
oh, I was gonna
There's
say
always Euro baiting.
what was the last one we read, Brad?
Oh, the
The
very last
villainess turn.
episode.
Oh, the villainess turned the hourglass. Is that what
Yes,
you're
turns
talking
the
about?
hourglass.
Yeah.
Yeah, with her friend Sarah,
Hmm.
and every
Mm.
time they see each other, there's sparkles, and it gets dramatic, and they hug and they almost kiss, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you." It's like, okay, and then of course they both find husbands,
just
and
give,
they're just friends.
I
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
Just give us the poly route that we've been clamoring for hours. God damn it. Give the fan base what we want. God.
I mean, there
Mm.
are some Yuri Otome Isekai out there. Not a lot. I can think like maybe two off the top of my head.
I want it to be organic. I want you to not go into the series expecting that, and then it sort of just builds, and they're like, "Oh, turns out I'm gay."
Yeah, most definitely. Because I know that I think the one that I'm thinking about, I haven't really read it, but from what I've heard and seen, I favor the villainess. It's also getting an anime adaptation sometime
Mm,
this year.
yeah,
Um, that obviously the main character is obviously favors the villainess. So obviously that means she's gonna have romantic feelings. And like you said, Brad, I think it would be very nice and refreshing that we get a nice slow progression
yeah.
of the female lead and another female lead. But I know that's probably not gonna happen.
I'm watching the revolution the magical revolution of the reincarnated lady and sorry, the reincarnated princess and the genius young lady. So I'm
Yeah.
watching that anime
Right.
and it's who but it It's very good. I mean, it's awesome because they both have like self-development, like there's actually an arc of growth for both of them, separately and together. So it's like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Well, and with that one, they're not like going immediately towards like, oh, they're in love with each other. There's like sort of hints of that, but for the most part, it's like, oh, I'm going to take care of you because you had this terrible situation. We're good friends now. We're growing and building each other up. If it turns into romance later, I'm there for it. But they're not like telegraphing it ahead of time.
Well, except that they make a lot of pretty earlier on jabs that like Annis, the princess, like she was never interested in having a husband. She was
Yeah.
always interested in having a wife. Like it's just stuff like that. But and she gets very cuddly with you. Euphilia really early, but it's like it is a more natural progression than like urinating. That's for sure.
Yeah. There's been a big discussion about that in like the books category. There's a big fantasy book that came out, won a bunch of awards, called Legends and Lattes, and it's about a female orc barbarian buys a coffee shop because she wants to retire and quit fighting.
Oh, that
She
sounds
winds up,
nice.
yeah, she winds up
That
dating
does sound nice.
her, like one of her first employees that she hires, and it evolves really slowly. It's really good, but they don't advertise it. They advertise it as just like a relaxed, cozy fantasy story. And there were so many people who got so angry about, oh, I didn't know this was going to turn into a
What?
lesbian book. Yeah.
Okay, here's
Oh
the
my
here's the thing.
god.
Real life also works that way. You don't expect to
Yeah.
like
I
fall in love
know.
with somebody, you know?
Yeah.
So and honestly, that's something that we need in fiction, let alone in books. Fuck, movies, TV shows, because everybody, all of like the producers and whatever of the shows, they're like, "Oh, this is going to be a lesbian or a queer thing." And I'm just like, "Look, you don't need to advertise it. It doesn't need to be forefront. I'm sure that the LGBTQ plus community is going to be fine if if it turns out that way. That's great because they don't. I'm sure they don't kind of really appreciate it being kind of broadcasted as a queer thing when it's only just like a small snippet of a
Yeah, and
story.
it narrows it because, like, if they had advertised it as LGBT romance, like I'm straight, so I wouldn't typically seek out an LGBT romance. But if it's just romance and it just happens to be LGBT, it's fine. I mean, it's just you pigeonhole something by
Yeah.
identifying it as Yuri right off the bat, when really it's just like a good romance story.
Mm.
Hmm. And I think
And
that that's what we need. I mean, I know this is a bit off
yeah,
tangent, but and I want to say this because this is something I really believe in, is that LGBTQ people don't need to be like super catered to, you know? If it naturally happens, that's great. If it's a romance in the background or if it's a romance in the forefront, that's fine. That's it's just real life.
Hmm.
I want something that depicts real life that
Natural,
happens.
natural representation.
yeah, characters with
Yes,
chemistry. Yeah,
exactly. That's
Well,
very
and
important.
if you do it that way, you avoid the fetishization of it.
And but the thing is, I mean, and there's some people that like that fetishization. I'm
Mm.
one of them, but like with yaoi, okay, I like yaoi, but I'm also totally cool with just a natural progression thing. It doesn't always have to be fetishized.
Yeah.
And I feel like they cater, like the media entertainment kind of caters to that more because it makes the big money and
they
it makes
really
them
don't
sad.
know. I just know from the book perspective, they really don't know how they want to advertise yet. Because if they don't advertise it, people complain, and if they do advertise it as that, people complain that it's not just an LGBT story; it's a human story. You don't need to put it off in its own little corner to be avoided.
I think
And
they should advertise it as that. It's a human story
yep,
because it's true.
That's the camp I land in. But yeah, we're still having that fight. And I don't know what it's like in Korea or Japan or China.
Well, I've
I mean,
like
not great.
it's not
Yeah,
great.
that
Yeah,
was my thought.
Not
Yeah.
great.
ever since I've kind of been into the manhwa genre, I've kind of delved a bit deeper into pop culture and cultural things about Korea. So they're not super against gay marriages, but it's frowned upon. You know,
Hmm.
it's not traditional. They don't, and they're still kind of fighting for LGBTQ to be discussed publicly because it's not something that you can discuss out out loud
Yeah.
in public. Yeah, so it's definitely a struggle, but it's not like here in North America where like some people find out that you're gay or anything like that. It's suddenly like all relationships get cut off and everything. And I'm sure that happens in Korea and Japan and China. But in Korea and Japan that I know of, it's not. It's frowned upon, but people will mind their own business, kind of thing.
Hmm.
Hmm. Well, before we get into the final bits here, I just wanted to ask if anybody has any notes that they didn't get to bring up yet. I have a couple here, and I think my most important note, Panchi is the goat. We didn't talk about him at all, but he's
All
the best.
right.
That's my first note. Is he's the best.
Yeah. Oh
That
my
is a
gosh.
good goat.
I
He's
agree.
great. He's a great servant. He's a great like supporting character slash background character. He's a great comedic guy.
Yeah.
He's just like I don't
Yeah.
know. He's great. He's and like I love that he gets his own title card as well. Just like that's how you know that people are important. They get their own title card.
He definitely probably scored high on the popularity polls.
You better.
Hmm.
I have another note here. Get you a man who kills ninja in the middle of the night so that you can rest after you fought a giant dude.
Right. I've got to say about how do you say it? Google help me. Honu. There we go. Honu. Honu. I like him. I know that Ben and Whitlash, you do not like him because you prefer bad boys. I like him. He is a fantastic soft cinnamon roll that we all must need to protect and love, and he is great.
I like
That is
him
it.
for her.
I mean, I like him for her. I like him for Haewon for sure. There's no contesting.
I'd
He's
be friends
great
with
for
him.
Haewon.
I'd be friends with Honu 100%. He seems like a great human.
I would ask him to get things off the high shelf.
I had someone
Uh,
do that to me in a grocery store a couple weeks ago. It was the first time it might be the first time it ever happened to me. I was just like walking around. I come around the corner and there's this old lady was like, "Hey, could you help me with that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure."
Hey man, when there's a tall person available, us short people, we need to take the opportunity because we don't know when it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
So I got another one here. This the part where she had taken the pill of 1,000 poisons or whatever it was called to like gain immunity because they had poisoned her with the super poison.
Yeah.
There's that part where she's like in her own mind and like the representation of her fears shows up. And that's like a
Right.
trope that you get all the time where it's like, oh, they have to fight against their own, inner self or whatever. Girl's just like, fucking existential crisis. I know what I'm about. Just like
Yeah, she's
immediately is
like
like, I'm not doing this.
it's like existential crisis because wait, my people need me. I
Yeah.
got business to take care of. I can't deal with you right now, so I'm just gonna strangle the hell out of you. Okay, bye. That was fantastic. I wish we could all do that. I wish it could be just that easy.
I actually like, well, since you brought it up, I think that was one of the things that I don't like that much about the series is that Heroine is such a cool and calm and collected character. You really rarely see her fucking up. Like I like that she does, reflect on her burdens as like the leader, the heiress of the clan, like all the lives that are sitting on her back. Like she does reflect on that, but you just like I said, like she doesn't really have that many flaws. And so she's not a very relatable female lead for me.
There's
She's super badass. She's a cool heroine, but
I think what they did was they dealt with that early on. They dealt with the like, oh, I killed a person. Oh, I'm in this person's body. What am I going to do? And then once she had that dealt with, whenever it comes up later, it's like, no, we already dealt with this. I don't need to do this again, you know?
it's also the character of the original person who transmigrates. Like she's already like a cool and collected character, so I
Mm.
understand that when she transmigrates, she's still that person. But it's just not. She just doesn't seem very human.
I
I
get where
mean,
you're coming
like
from.
they
Yeah,
do
I
have like these
understand.
like yeah they do have these like self reflection things for her where she's like like she's constantly burdened by all the things that she has to go through, and even the
Hmm.
future of the Tong Clan is like on her shoulders. But like I said, she doesn't fuck up. She's always a badass. She makes no mistakes. It's kind of hard to relate. But yeah, that was just one of my like, hey, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate and have something not super great to
Sure.
say.
I find that in season one, when she was dealing with like the whole questioning her place and all that kind of stuff, and I feel like the series has split itself into a kind of like when it's spilling into season that there's like kind of like main themes. So like the main theme of season one is kind of like okay, character introduction, fears and doubts, training montage, kind of thing, and then season two is kind of like um, what I kind of liked about season two is season one kind of built up Haywan, and then season two kind of brought her back down because as you guys can see in the various fights, she kind of gets her ass handed to her. Um, like she gets poisoned a bit from like the first attack from the assassins, okay, and then she goes and um, what was it? When they go on the mountain trip with the male lead, she kind of loses. She takes some L's.
Hmm.
And then finally, at the end of season two, we kind of go up into that kind of training again, because obviously that the demonic sect is sending people that are a bit more skilled than her in certain areas, and she's incredibly powerful, but she's still not able to master her all of her abilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an up and down of learning, then kind of being humbled, and now we're going back up into that learning climb again.
So, in a similar vein, my 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 last note here that I wanted to get to, the part where they're at the port and
Hmm.
they're like, oh, let's go out and like do some surveillance and everything, and
Oh my
she
god.
has everybody gathered.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, guys, don't create a disturbance. Next scene. Creates a disturbance. It's
Immediately
like you just
immediately
said.
creates the disturbance. Dude, that whole arc with the port was absolutely heart wrenching. The fucking
Mm.
ending, I couldn't handle it. With like these, oh my god, no, like the port worker. I'm sorry, the shipmen and women like singing like the
I didn't
sea
think they were
shanty
going
at
to
the end. I
go
can't
there.
handle
Yeah.
it. I can't do it. I
Hmm.
can't do it. I was like, oh my god, did we really Titanic this? Like, oh my god. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I was. Oof, it was a big oof,
Yeah.
honestly.
There were
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely no winners. I mean,
Honu,
there were
Honu's like,
winners, but like, yeah.
let them immolate themselves. And she's like, that's not better, Honu.
Yeah.
I don't feel great about that
I
either.
I actually I thought that they were gonna take the little girl with her, because like in a lot of
Hmm.
these,
Hmm.
like adventure types, like you kind of like gather characters, like, oh, the party just gets bigger and bigger, right? So
I'm
I thought
collecting
that they were gonna
minions.
take the girl.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, like I thought that she was gonna be skilled in something that only she could do, and that she was gonna be part of the party, but I guess not.
No, just sad.
Instead, she just had the saddest bento box in her arms at the
Oh my
farewell. And
god.
like it was so funny, the Bato comments. The Bato comments were like, "Oh, I thought that was a lunch box. No, 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 not a lunch
No,
box. Not a lunch
that's a
box."
cremation box right
Yep.
there
Yep.
of her
Oh,
brother's
man.
ashes.
Ah,
Yeah.
no,
That
don't
was a
like that.
heavy
I really
hit.
thought it was. I thought it was funny that that they were on FaceTime using the 1,000 pictures mirror. Like I
Yeah.
Yeah.
just thought that
I
was
love
really
that.
funny when they were all they were always FaceTiming each other. I'm like, oh my god, this is hilarious.
And then he's
It's
just
super
like,
cute.
I came because you said that you missed me. Like, you just ran 800 miles.
Hey,
Yeah.
Matt, it's the
Well,
cultivation.
yeah.
Yeah. Cultivation. Uh, I have one note left. Tea party bait. I was
Mm.
denied several tea parties
Ah,
where,
right.
yeah, where the guy's like, I'm just gonna slip something into her tea, and I'm like, oh, here it comes. Here's the tea party. It's about to happen. And then she's just like, as he's saying it, she's basically standing behind him with a sword, going, nope. And
Your fear
ah,
wasn't realized, Ben. That's congratulations.
she knew she couldn't risk the tea
No, it's
party.
just the other. Yeah,
That's how I choose to
yeah.
interpret it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Ben is still waiting for the other T shoe to drop. He's like, anytime
Ah,
now,
right.
there's gonna be a.
Yeah.
I also just have one more thing to add
Mm.
about like the art composition, like the panels and everything.
Yeah.
I find that the art and um, is very good at making me hear like the movements of what's happening. Like there's
Oh
this
yeah.
specific one.
Yeah.
There's this very specific one that just brings up my mind is when it's in season one when the clan battle is happening in the meeting of the martial artists
The five
of the martial
families.
yeah the five families meeting, and she has to go and defend her clan from another clan that's doing some dirty shit, some shady scummy shit in the background, and she kind of like comes in because the panel is centered around uh what's the guy's name again? Google help me. Hanu. Hanu again, and her father, and she just kind of it's very striking. It's very, very striking, and I found
Where
it
she flies in
supremely
over their
beautiful.
shoulder.
Yes, flies in.
Yeah.
She's wearing all red. She flies in over their shoulder, and I can hear the billowing
Mm.
of her clothes,
Oh,
and it's super striking and gorgeous, and I loved it.
I love the wuxia. Whenever there's like a female martial artist, she does the like sleeve slap.
Yep.
Yep,
Yes,
and
the sleeves. The sleeves are a weapon.
it makes that whip crack sound in every martial arts movie. I would hear that. I love that.
Absolutely.
And like the action, like when Honu is some beating some ass in season two, when he like strikes the ground when before he kicks that general lady's head off, like you can hear the crack, you can hear the thud,
Mm.
and it's just like they did a fantastic job with the art, kind of just like you can hear the sounds, the
Yeah.
actions, the auto, the whatever the word is, the audio that is going on, and it's fantastic. I love. I get to read something and I actually hear the sounds,
Yeah.
so that was cool.
So did anybody else have any other notes they wanted to hit before we wrap this up?
Oh, I really liked. I've not seen this because there's a lot of in Otomi Isekai. There's a lot of hair kissing, but like
Mm,
in martial arts villainess, like Hanu like kisses her sleeve
mm,
in season one when
Oh yeah.
she's leaving their yeah. And I was like, oh, that is romantic. And
Ah!
that is worth, like, it really stayed with me because I have not seen that. And you know what? It's like, it's not attached to your body, like it's not attached to your body, but you can still feel it, like as a, you know, a peripheral clock. Yeah. And it's like something that I guess like because
A
there is a
romantic
lot of
just
like more
yeah.
natural elements and these like wuxia stories, and that's like one of those. Oh my gosh, it
mm.
was respectful but sweet, and that was definitely that stuck with me. So
Oh yeah.
That was the moment when the ship set sailed for me. I was just
She's
like,
staring
these
out
two
the
are
window,
100%
remembering
going to
it.
be together. I do not care. You are OTP in my mind. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she remembers it for a
well,
while. Like
I
I would say it
yeah,
seems like a
I
couple
mean it's
weeks,
something that you
and that's
remember
very
for
cute, and I've
sure.
enjoyed that.
All right. Well, to finish this off, then we'll do what we always do, and we'll do the rating, the live rating. So before I actually rate this, do we have guesses as to what my rating will be?
I would say it's either 7 or an 8.
I'd guess 8 for you.
I think it's a 9 for you, Brad.
So I am going to rate this at an 8. That is a good guess. The thing that could have bumped this up to a 9 for me would have been a bit more like artistic bent on the characters and everything. That was the one thing. And normally art isn't a thing for me, but this just has so many good points that I needed to sort of like temper everything else and be like, okay, what is there something here that I think could be better? And that's the one thing.
I
I should
guess.
note that the rating for this, generally speaking, is a 9. So most people really, really like this.
Well, it turns out I'm most people because I give it a 9.
Oh,
I
yay!
actually have recommended this to people who I've been talking to. Like I know a lot of people who come from, I guess, action comics, like not necessarily manga, but maybe Marvel or Image comics. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and I thought this was like the perfect bridge to maybe something that's a little deeper into the Otome Isekai
Mm-hmm.
genre because this has all the and not all the elements, but it's got a lot of it. It's got the romance side, but it's also just a solid martial arts comic in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Ben, I think this was made for you because you have a personal martial art you have a personal martial arts background. So like this is your comic. Like
I
cuz
really like
I mean a
this.
lot of the Eastern setting ones, yeah, the Eastern setting ones they don't have like actual martial arts. Like there's a lot of like intellectual stuff
Hmm.
going on, tea parties and concubine walkthrough or whatever, but like there's not like actual martial arts, but this one actually has it. So
Oh yeah, it has it all. It has the martial arts, the Chinese like alchemy with Soye, and all the demon beasts,
hmm
and I loved it.
Awesome.
I yeah, recommend.
Have you guys rated it?
I don't really like believe in readings, but I yeah, I think it's a little anarchic, but but I do think that like if I had to rate it out of a 10, I would probably give it a 9.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm also on the same vein as Brad in artistic. I'm a nut for that. I really enjoy art. So it kind of lost a I mean, it didn't lose any points. It just didn't reach that high point
Mm-hmm.
of what I consider like masterpieces, which is a 10 out of 10.
Mm.
But this one, it goes to an 8.
Awesome.
Even though there wasn't as much artistic uh, flair as I would like, it's still fantastic. The action scenes, the background art, the characters, the romance, everything. It's still a very high 8 for me.
Cool. So everybody's
Pretty high.
recommending. Awesome. Well, I'm glad we did
Oh,
this
yeah.
series.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, a rare find in the otome isekai genre.
They need to
It's very unique. There's not a lot like it.
Yeah.
needs to get off hiatus.
It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a while.
I know.
At minimum 8 months.
Oof.
I mean, not 8, 6 months.
Yeah, it did. It
Still
did go on hiatus not that long ago, so it's probably still going to be a
Yeah.
little while.
Sorry, man.
I don't
I
like.
looked up the
being on
novel.
cutting
I
edge.
looked up the novel, and there's 255 chapters for the novel, so there's quite a lot.
Wow.
That still needs to be covered. And if I don't think we're doing a one chapter correspondence for the novel versus the manhwa, but it's still going to be a lot more ground to cover.
Well, they got to publish the novel in English. I guess that's the only way to go.
So this is the time when we pick the next series that we're going to cover next month. However, I actually have one picked already this time. So Ben had been talking before about wanting to put together a rubric for reviewing these. And there was a series that hadn't been releasing for a while that just started releasing again. And I started reading it and I was like, this would be perfect for having a rubric for. So
I might have to get on this Reddit. I haven't been on Reddit in a very long time, but I might need help with the rubric. I have a rubric for words about books.
This Reddit.
Where we whatever the kids are calling it, the Reddit.
No, please don't.
But no, I might have to post to find out sort of what categories make a good otome isekai.
I think when I tell you the name of this, everybody listening will be like, "Oh yeah!" And this is one that I do have on the main list of recommendations for Ben, but I felt that this is one that needed to go to the top. So
Okay.
we're going to be doing Fantasy of a Stepmother.
Gasp.
I'm sorry.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's my favorite one.
It's honestly, it's really, really good, but there's also a lot of stuff in there that Ben, I think you'll really latch onto and want to like dive into. It's not like that. Don't make that face. It's like a historic period piece kind of thing.
Yeah, no. I've heard people call these things documentaries before, Brad. I'm not falling for it.
It's based off historic Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, the original title for this series is A Stepmother's Marching because it's based in Germany. So.
Yeah, I don't have that title, and I'm not sure how to actually pronounce that word. So,
Machira.
Yeah, that's
Martian.
the original title for it.
My German ancestry is screaming right now.
Oh. Ooh.
But no, it's a very highly rated series, and
So for a while, so it had won one of our contests on the sub, and so I had changed the sub banner to like Shirley's profile picture, and then I had called there's like a tagline for the subreddit, and I had put like a subreddit's marching because
nice.
yeah,
Nice.
I always change the taglines up.
So everybody can look forward to that. It'll be a good series, and we'll have objective proof that it's good.
I'll try my best.
You'll love it, Ben.
I haven't found one I didn't like so far. I know you're showing me like the best. They're screened for me, I guess.
Yeah, you're getting a catered version
Yeah.
of. I mean, some of us are reading like actual trash. So
We'll have to see. We'll get there one day.
All right. Well, I think that will do it. So thanks for listening. And I want to thank our guests for being here.
thanks for having us.
Do you guys have anything you want to plug before we go?
Oh, well, thanks for having us. If you guys want to check out the Otome Isekai subreddit, it's all one word, Otome Isekai. Please check it out. We're always happy.
You could always go to
All right, otomeisekai.com.
yes, www.otomeisekai.com.
Nice.
It automatically redirects to the subreddit.
Awesome.
Yeah, neat.
So before we go, I want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart is a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. They have a lot of cool stuff you can't get outside of Japan. If you check the link in the description or use the offer code APR15 at checkout, you can get 15% off your first order, which also helps us out. So once again, thanks to Sugoi Mart. You can let us know what you think on social media and tell us if you have any series you want us to cover. You can just go to animepodcasterreincarnation.com to find all those social media links, where you can also leave comments on the episodes and find other reviews and posts. And make sure you don't miss our main podcast, That Time I Got Reincarnated, in the same world as an anime podcaster. And if you can't get enough of Ben talking about reading things, you can always check out his other podcast, Words About Books. So once again, thanks so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed it. We had a great time recording. Thanks to our guests once again, Witlash and Moon. We really enjoyed having you on. It was a good time.
Oh yeah, this was lots of fun. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go put Ben in rehab for his newfound crippling manhwa addiction.
My notes, I have pros and cons for the story, and Gungwoo's nipples are in both.
You don't
And
see his nipples, you see his
you do.
pecs.
No,
No,
you
No,
do.
you do see the nipples.
You do.
Yeah.
And they,
Which chapter?
in the bathhouse, they are obscene.
There's just nipples everywhere. Like the training grounds also has nipples. It's nipple galore.
How did I miss that? Oh, I'm bummed.
Well, that answers my first question.
Whenever I hear
Yeah.
Tang, I think of like that 90s
The
commercial
orange
with
drink.
like the orange drink with the
The
orangutan.
juice, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just like, God, this is awful.
They still make that. You can still buy it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, probably not in Canada. I don't see that here, but yeah, cool.
Oh, that's right. You have food standards and stuff.
We do have food standards and stuff.
And so the guy is Gunwo.
Okay, so I'm hearing it right now. It's Honu.
What?
I know it's completely
Honu.
different.
All right.
Konu.
I believe it. I fucking believe it.
Konu. It's the G is accented as well to sound like a K, but it's not.
Yeah.
See, I can't. Some of these look like Chinese
Hanu.
names, and some of them look like Korean names.
Honu.
Well, they're supposed to be Chinese names, right? So, Cornwall. Okay. Good luck.
So-
Good luck to us all.
Honu.
Honu. Well, if you say it wrong, it's not a big deal. We like to have the wrong names of things on this show. So
English doesn't have many dialects.
this whole time I was like, oh, this is easy. Gun woo, right? No.
No.
I'll be
Don't.
honest, I read it like that in my mind. Like my mental voice was like, gun woo.
Okay, well, it's fine to describe the person as the guy who was next to Heroine when they were doing this thing, and then he was wearing that thing. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Yeah. I'll be like
The
that,
blonde
dude.
guy, the mountain
yeah,
kid,
yeah, exactly.
girl intern.
Google that if they don't know what Castle Nim is.
I
Totally
feel like
okay.
anybody who's read more than a couple manhwa should know what Castle Nim is. And I'm looking at Ben's face, and I think we need to explain it to him.
No, okay, so I'm going to guess. Is that the castle that they all use? Is that the asset?
You are correct.
Okay.
It is the
Yes.
the asset that they use in every single Villainess or Otome Isekai manhwa ever.
It's so weird too, because it's not even like a good castle. It's so like how do you get to that part up at the top? That doesn't make any sense.
For me, it's the arch.
Don't you dare.
I like
the
the
arch.
part of the castle. It kind of has no practical use or architecturally or
Yeah.
building structurally. So it's just like, but it's nice. It's an aesthetic.
It certainly is.
There's definitely a lot of memes of it. And it's kind of like our biggest claim to fame because a lot of Korean like wikis and articles and news articles have been written about our castle name, like specifically talking about like because we started collecting all the sightings of
there's a
it
wiki
on the subreddit. Yeah, there's a wiki about it, and so like even the Korean audience is like, oh yeah, these Westerners started collecting all the sightings of Castle Nim. They call it Castle Nim.
Why is it called Castle Nim?
So Nim is like a kind of like a term.
It's kind of like you know when you think of like san and chan?
It's a suffix.
Oh, like an honorific.
It's a suffix
honorific.
of yeah. It's an honorific.
Nim is like brother
Okay.
castle. I'm not sure. Koreans correct me on this.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a brother castle.
I don't know if any Koreans listen to this.
I mean, there could be American Koreans or Canadian Koreans. I don't know. Some English-speaking Koreans. Correct us on this if we are correct or not. Please let us know.
Well, if they adapted it into their wikis, they must approve on some level.
That is true.
Yeah, I think they think that it is interesting.
Interesting.
That we are interesting.
It has anthropological
that we're
value.
fascinated by.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
It's just so weird to see it everywhere. Like the fact that, obviously there's an asset out there on whatever asset website that all of these people use.
Oh, it's been found.
And just like, it just so, maybe it's just the cheapest one. And so it just so happened that everybody decided to use it.
Most possibly, yes. They're like, that's a pretty okay looking castle. Let's just grab it.
At this point, it's got to be like a tribute.
Well, it looks like a fantasy castle.
It does look like a fantasy castle.
That's
Yeah.
why.
It may very well be an in-joke at this point.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely
Castle
an in-joke.
Nim.
Yeah.
I'm making a Villainess Isekai.
I'm sure.
How meta do you want to go?
I'm sure there's already somebody like in Korea as doing like a small like comedy comic about it. It's just be like, I've been reincarnated as Castle Nim.
I thought you were going to say somebody's building like a Castle Nim theme park. Like they've got like a 3/4 scale replica of Castle Nim.
I don't think we have the money for that kind of thing yet.
I don't think it would be made out of bricks, but
Oh no, maybe Legos.
get a float in a parade.